My sister inherited everything, but the lawyer called me next. I was still wearing black when the call came. The house smelled like lilies and coffee that had gone cold hours ago. My mother's scarf lay across the back of the couch, like she might reach for it any minute. I stood there, staring at it, and tried to swallow the ache that kept rising in my throat. At the reading of the will, Sienna sat in the front chair, chin high, hands folded like she'd practiced it in the mirror. She is my older sister by 2 years, and she's always known how to own a room. The lawyer said her name again and again. The house. The accounts. The antique shop on Maple Street. Even the little lake cabin where we learned to swim. All to Sienna. My name appeared once, tied to the personal effects at the executor's discretion. It sounded like a sympathy card. Sienna squeezed my shoulder on the way out like she was the one comforting me. Mom wanted simplicity, she said. It's better this way. She said that to people when she wanted them to stop asking questions. She also said, loud enough for the cousins to hear, that I had never been good with money, which is one of those statements that sounds kind, like she's saving me from myself. It is also a knife. I drove home with the windows down even though the wind stung. At every red light I checked my mother's contact on my phone, then put it away again. What would I say if she picked up? I'm proud to be the one who stayed. I'm sorry I didn't leave when Sienna told me to. None of the words mattered now. The shop had always been mine in the ways that count. I worked there on weekends through college, ran the repair table, labeled the glass cases by hand. My mother used to joke that I knew every secret hidden in every drawer. When the pandemic hit, I set up the online inventory that kept us open. Sienna posted a few photos and called it marketing. She still got the thanks. Then the will said she got the keys. So when the unknown number flashed across my phone and I heard, "This is Daniel Hart," my chest tightened. He had read the will in that crisp voice, the one that turned a life into paragraphs. I apologize for calling after hours, he said. Could we talk privately? I don't see the point, I said. There's nothing left to discuss. There is, actually. His tone changed, softer now. Your mother left an instruction that wasn't part of the main will. It concerns you, specifically. I sat on the arm of the couch and stared at the scarf again. The pattern was faded roses, the ones my mother wore whenever she needed courage. What kind of instruction? It isn't the sort of thing I can explain over the phone, he said. But I can tell you it requires your decision before we proceed with probate. I thought of Sienna's smile outside the office, that careful smile she uses for cameras and strangers. I thought of the shop's back room, the safe my mother kept behind an old mirror. I thought of all the times Sienna said, "It's better this way," and how my mother looked at the floor when she did. Can you come by in the morning? He asked. Yes, I said, though my voice felt like it belonged to someone else. Come alone, he added. And bring something only your mother would know you have. The line clicked off. I sat there in the quiet and felt the weight of the room tilt, as if a door I hadn't noticed had just swung open in the dark. By morning, I was standing outside Daniel Hart's office with the same nervous energy I used to feel before exams. The city was half awake, the sun still shy behind the buildings. I clutched a small velvet pouch in my hand. Inside was my mother's silver locket. It had a photo of her and me when I was 5. Only she and I knew the latch was broken on one side. Daniel greeted me with that lawyer's politeness that sounds calm but never warm. Lena, he said, gesturing toward the chair. I'm glad you came. I almost didn't, I admitted. Sienna made it clear she's handling everything. He gave a dry smile. Your sister is efficient. But this is separate. Your mother left a sealed envelope, to be opened only in your presence. My pulse quickened. An envelope. He unlocked a drawer, pulled out a thick cream-colored envelope, and placed it on the desk. My mother's handwriting curved across it, for Lena, when it matters most. "Go ahead," he said softly. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter and a single key, brass, worn, with a small engraved on it. The letter read, "Asterisk, my dear Lena, if you are reading this, it means Sienna has inherited what she asked for. You have inherited what I could not say aloud. There is a safe deposit box at Alder Bank, number 204. Take this key there. It belongs to you, and to the truth that will one day set things right, asterisk." I stared at the paper until the ink seemed to blur. "What truth?" I whispered. Daniel folded his hands. "I don't know the contents, but she made me promise not to tell your sister. She said it was your choice whether to reveal it." I felt anger flicker beneath my ribs. "You mean she planned this? She knew the will would look unfair?" "She did," Daniel said gently. "And she trusted you to understand why." When I stepped outside, the wind had picked up. My car smelled faintly of the coffee I'd spilled the day before, and of the past. I drove straight to Alder Bank. The manager recognized my mother's name and guided me to a small private room. The safe deposit box slid open with a metallic sigh. Inside was a leather folder, a USB drive, and a folded note. The note said only, "Start with the folder." Inside were copies of old receipts, business registrations, and letters, proof that I had been listed as co-owner of the antique shop 5 years ago. My signature was there, but the one beside it, labeled Sienna Morgan, looked forged. The dates matched the year Sienna convinced Mom to reorganize everything for taxes. For a moment, the air went thin. All those times Sienna said she'd handle the paperwork. All those nights Mom stayed up in her study, rubbing her temples. She must have found out. I pocketed the USB and drove home. My fingers trembled against the steering wheel. That evening, I texted Sienna, "Can we talk about the shop?" She replied within seconds, asterisk Lena, "Don't start this. Mom's gone. Let it go, asterisk." But I couldn't. Because for the first time, I wasn't guessing anymore. And I hadn't even opened the USB yet. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the USB drive, as if it might start speaking first. The apartment was dim except for the flickering light from the stove clock. Outside, the rain tapped at the windows like it had something to say too. When I finally plugged it in, a single folder appeared on the screen, for Lena. Inside were scanned letters, audio files, and one video. I clicked the video. My mother sat at her old desk, the same one with the crooked drawer I used to fix. She looked thinner, but her voice was steady. "Lena," she began, "if you're seeing this, I'm gone. I needed you to know the truth about the shop, and about Sienna." She paused, looking down. "When your father left, I made mistakes. I trusted your sister to handle the finances. She convinced me to sign over the business, saying it would make things simpler. I didn't realize she'd changed the ownership papers entirely. I found out later, and she begged me not to tell you. I wanted to fix it before I died, but I ran out of time." Mom's eyes glistened. "Daniel knows part of this. I asked him to keep the documents safe. The originals are yours, Lena. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The screen went black. I sat there, frozen. The sound of the refrigerator humming was suddenly too loud. All the quiet moments of doubt I'd buried for years came flooding back, every time Sienna cut me off in conversation, every time Mom avoided my eyes when I asked about the shop. I called Daniel immediately. "She knew Sienna forged the papers," I said. "There's proof on the drive." He exhaled. "Then the shop never legally transferred. If your mother's signature was misused, that's a criminal act." But Lena, are you ready to bring this forward? I hesitated. She's my sister. And she took your life's work, he said quietly. Sometimes justice hurts before it heals. The next day, I went to see Grace, the only person outside the family who had always believed me. She used to work with us at the shop, before Sienna pushed her out. When I walked into her small apartment, she looked surprised. Lena. It's been years. I need your help, I said, and showed her the folder. Grace flipped through the papers, her eyes narrowing. This is definitely forged. I remember the day these were signed. Your mom never left the counter. Sienna came in later and said she needed clean copies for tax reasons. We both knew something felt off. I swallowed hard. Would you testify to that? She nodded without hesitation. Your mother gave everything she had to that shop. I won't let Sienna erase that. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. Not loud or triumphant, just quiet and solid, like the ground under my feet was returning. That night, I sent Daniel a message, I'm ready. Let's move forward, He replied within minutes, understood. Meet me at the courthouse Friday morning. Bring the USB and folder, I looked out the window at the rain that hadn't stopped all day. The city lights blurred in the droplets. I whispered to my mother's memory, I'll make this right. But a part of me still wondered, what would Sienna do when she found out I wasn't staying quiet anymore? Friday morning came heavy and gray, the kind of sky that made everything feel quieter. I arrived early at the courthouse, clutching the folder and the USB like they were part of me. Daniel met me at the steps, briefcase in hand, expression calm as ever. She'll be here, he said. And she was. Sienna stepped out of a black car, wearing her usual perfection, beige coat, sleek hair, not a single crease out of place. She looked at me with something between pity and annoyance. Really, Lena? Dragging the family name into court? This isn't about family, I said. It's about truth. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Truth. You were always so naive. Mom wanted me to run things because I actually can, you'd have run the shop into the ground. Mom never said that, I said quietly. You did. Before she could reply, Daniel cleared his throat. Ms. Morgan, I filed a petition to contest the will and ownership documents based on new evidence. You can review them with your attorney. Her face tightened for the first time. New evidence. I slid the folder across the table in the small conference room. Recognize your signature. Sienna's eyes darted to it, then away. You have no idea what you're talking about. Daniel leaned forward. Your mother recorded a video, Ms. Morgan. Admitting she discovered a forged transfer of ownership. That video and corroborating witness testimony established clear fraud. The silence that followed was thick. Sienna's hands trembled slightly, but she folded them together, trying to stay composed. You think anyone will believe you? Mom's gone. It's your word against mine. No, I said softly. It's Mom's word against yours. Her eyes snapped up to mine, and for the first time, I saw the fear. Not loud, not desperate, but sharp and real. She stood abruptly, gathering her purse. This is pathetic, she hissed. You've always envied me. I stood too. I envied the way you made Mom doubt herself. The way you took what wasn't yours and called it leadership. She stared at me for a long time before walking out, her heels striking the floor like tiny hammers. Daniel exhaled. She'll settle. She can't risk criminal charges. The forgery alone would end her reputation. But I barely heard him. I sat there, staring at the folder that had rewritten everything I thought I knew about family. That night, Sienna showed up at my apartment. No makeup, hair loose, eyes red. She didn't knock, just stood in the doorway until I looked up. "Why couldn't you let it go, Lena?" she whispered. "Because Mom didn't," I said. She stepped inside, voice cracking. "You've ruined me." I shook my head. "No. You did that yourself." For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then she dropped something on the table, a single silver key. "The one to the antique shop." "It's yours again," she said, barely audible. "Happy now?" Before I could answer, she turned and left. The door closed softly, but the silence that followed was heavier than any slam. I picked up the key. It was warm from her hand, and for a moment I couldn't tell if I was shaking from anger or from grief. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel, *, the settlement papers are ready. She's relinquishing all rights, *. I set the key down on the table beside my mother's locket. The two small pieces of metal glinted side by side, one for memory, one for justice. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't over. Because family wounds don't close with a signature. They echo. The next week, I stood inside the antique shop again. The key turned smoothly in the lock, and the smell hit me first, old wood, dust, and a faint trace of my mother's perfume. The same scent that once clung to her scarves. The sunlight came in at an angle, catching the glass displays and making them glow. For a moment, it was like time had folded back on itself. The shelves were just as she'd left them, teacups from the 1940s, postcards in neat bundles, the tiny porcelain cat that used to sit near the register. I walked through slowly, running my fingers along the counter, the same counter where I'd spent years polishing brass and greeting customers. Grace came by not long after. She smiled when she saw me behind the counter again. "Feels right," she said. "It does," I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. "I think she'd like it this way." Grace looked at the walls and nodded. "What about Sienna?" "She signed everything over," I said. "Daniel handled the rest." Grace hesitated. "And you?" I looked down at my hands. I thought I'd feel triumphant. But mostly, I just feel quiet. Later, after Grace left, I found one last envelope hidden inside the old cash drawer. My mother's handwriting again, small and deliberate. "For when peace feels strange." Inside was a tiny pressed flower, a blue forget-me-not, and a line written beneath it. "You can forgive without reopening the door." I held it for a long time. The shop hummed in the stillness, the city noise just a whisper outside. That evening, I opened the windows and let the late light pour in. The golden hour stretched across the floorboards, soft and forgiving. I took my mother's locket from my neck and placed it beside the shop key on the counter. They caught the light together, memory and meaning, side by side. When I locked up for the night, I didn't look back in sadness. I looked back to remember how far I'd walked to get here. Outside, the air was cool and gentle. The sign above the door still read, "Morgan Antiques," letters faded but proud. I traced them once with my finger, then whispered quietly, "We're home again, Mom." As I walked away, I thought about Sienna, not with anger, but with something closer to understanding. We were both our mother's daughters, just shaped by different kinds of fear. Maybe someday, she'd find her own peace too. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had the truth, and I had my life back. And sometimes, that's enough. If this story touched you, share your thoughts below. And subscribe for more stories of Revenge Ember.